This is 91.3 FM WCUW in Worcester, Massachusetts, with a live recorded interview with director Bert I Gordon, otherwise known as Mr. Big, a longtime science fiction monster movie director dating all the way back to 1955. Thank you, Bert, for taking the time to come on the show with us. We are a tremendous big fan of your body of work.
Fine, and my pleasure, Chris.
Bert, how did you get started in the monster making industry? What was your inspiration to start making monster films like King Dinosaur and Amazing Colossal Man?
Well, I started being interested in filming and becoming a filmmaker when I was about 9 years old. My aunt gave me a 16 millimeter camera, and I lived at the downtown theater whenever I could. I would be there all day Saturdays and Sundays with the double features and so on. And I liked the King Kong and Dracula, and I really was drawn to that type of film. But I liked all films, even the ones heavy love stories that I wasn't into, but they were movies, and that's what I wanted to see, and that's what I wanted to do with the rest of my life.
And what year was this that you were heading to the movies? Is this back when you would only spend a quarter on a movie to get a cartoon and a news and the sports as well?
Yeah, well, back then, when I said I started to make movies, I wrote little 5-minute plots and had friends in the neighborhood, and sometimes the parents act in the 5-minute movie. And I just wanted to make movies.
What are some of the people that influenced you growing up to make films?
Well, as far as the influence, it was the actors on the screen that drew me to wanting to someday be able to direct them and make films with them. But as far as people around me, I didn't get any encouragement. In fact, later in life, after University of Wisconsin and so on, and when I wanted to go to Hollywood to make movies, everybody tried to talk me out of it. They'd say, "You're not the son of Sam Goldwyn, are you?" Or Daryl Zanuck. "Well, you can't make it." And it was just positive that I knew I could make it. I wanted to make it so badly, and I was confident that I could do it. So that's it. I didn't get any influence or encouragement, I mean.
What were some of the hardest films to put together? Was it the monster films? Was that really difficult to do those type of effects back then?
The monster film came about as I wrote in my autobiography. In fact, I'm going to mention that if any of the listeners want to see all kinds of posters from my movies. It's BertIGordon.com is my website, and there's all kinds of pictures, and one with Orson Welles and me on location while I was making his film, and I just kept going to make all. The reason my first movie was a sort of a horror movie was after about a year and a half of ringing doorbells when I came to Hollywood to break into the industry. I was walking down the hall with my camera. I had a 16 millimeter professional camera that I brought with me because before I left St. Paul, Minnesota, and Minneapolis, I had a small business making television commercials and industrial films, and was doing very well until one day, as I tell myself, I was shaving, looking into the mirror, and I was very happy. I'm making movies, and the image talked back to me and said, "You're not making movies. Movies are made in Hollywood." And within 3 weeks, I closed my business and I went to Hollywood. And as I said before, I was walking down the hall with my in one of the buildings recordings with my 16mm professional camera, and a man walked up to me and said, "Is that your camera?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Do you know how to operate it?" And I said, "Well, of course." He said, "How would you like to make a feature movie?" I said, "Oh, God, from heaven, those words came to me," but I replied, "Movies are made at 35mm. He said, no problem. We'll just have the lab blow it up to 35mm. And that was my first movie. And I worked for nothing. All the actors were also wannabe actors in Hollywood. Everybody worked for nothing. And my big thrill was to see the film that we shot, to see the title on the marquee of the theater, and that was my beginning.
One of my favorite films that you did was Earth versus the Spider. Talk to us a little bit about that.
What was your question about Earth versus the Spider?
Well, Earth versus the Spider is one of my favorite films that you made. Talk to us a little bit about the production of Earth versus the Spider. It was actually, I think, honestly, Bert, I think it was the first movie I ever watched of yours.
Well, that was about my fifth or sixth film. We shot that on location up the coast, from Los Angeles, and a little town outside of a little town, and Joan Collins was no, Earth versus the Spider. Who was in that?
I have it actually right here on IMDb. It was Ed Kemper and Julie Kenny.
Oh yeah. Well, the spider, as in all my films, because I had learned my own methods of doing visual effects. I did the visual effects in all my movies. Even when I came to Hollywood, the amazing Colossal Man was a 65-foot giant man. He grew that, to that height, and also the spiders. Earth versus the Spider. The spiders grew back to the size of ponies, and invaded the city, and all the effects were I did the special visual effects as well as writing, directing, and producing all my movies, all but I think two of them, and the spiders were each of the different visual effects had problems of their own. Like I made giant rats in the giant rat movie. I had giant spiders, giant men, with giant chickens. I really enjoyed making the films, and that's what I wanted to do, and I did it, and I'm still doing it too. We're going to be dubbing my new movie that I just filmed recently in Texas.
Yeah, your new movie is Secrets of a Psychopath, and it's your first movie, it looks like, in 24 years. That's a pretty long time between films.
Well, I've been writing books. I have that book out, my autobiography, and then I decided I want to make movies again, so that's what I'm doing.
What was it that decided to bring you back into making films again?
Well, I was signing my autobiography at a bookstore in Hollywood, Edmonds, and someone asked me, "What about order to buy one of my books, my autobiography, I was autographing him also, of course, and his name was Rudy Frenner, and after we were all finished, he came up to me and said, I'd like to read that script. And I gave him, I sent him the script, or I met with him and gave it to him. And he's the producer of the movie. I'm the executive producer, but he's the producer, and he's doing a great job. So that's how it came about, my making the Secrets of a Psychopath.
Out of all the films you've done, what would you have to say would be your favorite?
Well, it's interesting, that question that you just asked me, and I'll tell you why. From time to time, I've been invited as a guest at the different festivals throughout the country, and also in England and in Spain. They bring me over there and they show my movies, and then I'll be one or more, and then I'll be on the stage afterwards with a question and answer. From for the audience, that question, and I'll give the answers. And every single time that I was on the stage with a question and answer, I was asked that question: which of my movies is my favorite movie? And and when I was in Spain and the other countries, they had when I was on the stage, they had an interpreter. It was translating what I was saying or the questions back and forth, because most of them were in Spanish. So they would, as I said, I would be asked that question, and my answer was, in each case, my next one is my favorite movie. Well, this time when you asked that question, this movie that I'm doing now is my favorite. Of all the movies I made, this one is my favorite. So it's getting a different answer than all the times I was asked before. Secrets of a Psychopath. It's exciting. It's different.
One of your most controversial films is probably Food of the Gods, correct?
Yeah, Food of the Gods was it was based on an H.G. Wells book, and I shot it in Canada, on an island off of Canada's coast. And that one was one of the national number 4 of national winners at the theaters when it came out. Yeah, Food of the Gods.
A lot of your films had also shown up on Mystery Science Theater 3000 and like Elvira's Mystery Macabre. Do you feel as though that's like an honor, or do you feel insulted that they parodied the movie and threw jokes at it?
Well, I understand that my films were more of my films appeared on that show than any other filmmaker, and I watched it one time, and I didn't like it. I didn't like them making fun of it, but that's okay. That was my feeling. But it was all in fun for them, and I take my films very seriously, and so anyway, that's how I felt.
Your book is a complete biography about everything that's happened through your entire filmmaking career, all the way up till about 1990. Am I correct?
Yes.
What type of advice do you have for somebody trying to make films today, and what do you think of the current modern day monster movies that you see on Sci-Fi Channel, or like the movie like Pacific Rim?
Well, the movies today, and not only horror movies but other movies too, but let's talk about horror movies. They're because of the techniques, the technical abilities to do so many things that are out of this world, visually, there's too much of that and not enough of the human story. the human element of the that the older movie or the movies that I made and other people have made at the same time that or in the past they dealt with more of the human part, and the special visual effects or the visual effects were there to push the human story along. But here, like for instance, I saw the new King Kong the other night. I think it was made in 2006 or
2005.
The new King Kong, and it was loaded with giant animals, giant this, giant that. But the human story was much less than the original. So that's an example of what I'm saying. I like the original one better.
Did you ever see the one from the 1970s made by Dino De Laurentiis?
See the what?
Did you ever see the one from the 70s?
No.
Oh, they made King Kong in the 1970s. That was Dino De Laurentiis made it.
Huh. Yeah, no, I didn't see that one.
What if have you ever thought about making more films on, or maybe developing more things for television? Or is it after this movie, Secrets of Psychopath, that you're going to go back into retirement?
No, I always, wanted to make them for the theater.
Are you going to make more movies? What I'm asking basically, are you going to make more movies after the Psychopath movie?
Yes. I've got another screenplay ready to go.
Cool, awesome. We look forward to seeing it. Do you hit the convention circuit a lot? Do you go to conventions and meet fans?
What was that?
I'm sorry. Do you go to the conventions a lot and meet fans?
Yeah, not the conventions, the festivals. In different parts of the country, as I said, in the world, they have film festivals, and people go there to buy posters and pictures and see movies, and also to meet their favorite stars.
Cool.
All of my my adventures in making films or getting to be able to make films is in my autobiography, The Amazing Colossal Worlds of Mr. B.I.G. And there's over 100 pictures of most of them from my private collection of different behind the scenes, and like with Orson Welles and different things like that.
What was one or two particular pictures that you weren't able to get off the ground that you tried working on? Do you have a couple titles that maybe just never saw fruition?
No, what was that? I didn't get that.
I'm sorry, Bert. What was a couple of titles that what were a couple of films that you tried to get made which never ended up happening?
I blocked those from my mind. I just think about the ones that I did make or I'm going to make,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Another film that's a big favorite of ours is King Dinosaur. It was one of the first dinosaur movies I ever saw when I was a kid. I really enjoyed it.
Good.
That had like William Bryant in it and Wanda Curtis, who had been in a bunch of kind of science fiction films of that era as well.
Yeah.
The Amazing Colossal Man is another one that really sticks out in our minds as being one of these great old classic science fiction films from the 80s. I mean, sorry, the 50s. That was really cool. And then you did the follow up with the Amazing Colossal Beast. But it's the only movie that you did that had a sequel. Why this one in particular?
That's right. You're right.
Why?
And,
why this one in particular?
The star in that one, the Beast, that's the only movie he made. He was working on my picture as a grip.
Okay. But sorry, Bert. My question is, why is the Amazing Colossal Man the only film of all the ones that you made, the only one that has a sequel?
That's a good question. Let me think. I don't know. I don't know. I never thought of that, but it's a very good question. Nope, I have no answer for that.
Did you do a lot of research about the type of like in like for instance the movie Necromancy, which had Orson Welles in it? Did you do a lot of research on like the occult and on the type of like animals and creatures that you were putting into your films, so they came across as being very accurate?
Oh yes, oh yes, definitely. And here's something else. And the different animals that I used in the different films, like Gila monsters for like in King Dinosaur, or in the different movies, the spiders and rats in Food of the Gods. In doing the visual effects, as I mentioned before, that I did my own visual effects. Each type of creature or insect or rat, or they all have their own problems, and like the Gila monsters that and other lizards that we used in King Dinosaur, we were all ready to shoot, and they wouldn't move. They wouldn't move. And when we were shooting them on the miniature stage to put together with the stars. And finally, I went to the Beverly Hills library, looked up Gila monsters and lizards, and I read in the book, it said that they live in the desert, and they don't move unless the temperature is over like 110 or 112. So they're like frozen unless the temperature is high. So the next day we brought in some heavy heating lamps and heating equipment, and we had our movable lizards doing all kinds of nasty things that we later put together with our people, chasing them and so on. But they're different things, and the same thing with the rats. And it's all in that autobiography, all the different things that each insect or rat or each had their own idiosyncrasy that you had to discover to make it work.
And that's like the same thing with the beginning of the end with the giant grasshoppers, right?
Yes.
Because the grasshoppers were real grasshoppers just shot on like a matte painting.
Yeah. Yeah, we shot different things like against blue backing and split screens and so on like that.
Cool, cool. Well, Bert, we appreciate you taking some excuse me, some time out to come on the show with us to talk about this. When is Secrets of a Psychopath supposed to be tentatively out? And when is it going to come out in theaters? Is it going to come out direct to video?
My new movie?
Yes, Secrets of a Psychopath.
Oh no, it's going to be in the theaters next year.
Oh, really? Cool. Is it going to be like
a
huge release,
yeah,
or is it going to be
a major release? Yeah.
Major release? Wow, that's pretty cool. We really look forward to seeing it, and because you're the writer and director on it, so this will be your big return to cinema. That's really cool.
And as I said before, I'm working. I've already got to finish the screenplay and for the next one.
Cool, awesome. Well, we look forward to your next project, Bert. It's been an honor to have you on the show, and we'll be back with more radio horror in just a few moments.